Hi, and welcome everybody to your SuperMate webinar for July. My name is Maureen Mowat, and I'll be your host today. For those of you that might not know me, I'm the Executive Manager of the Software Services, Customer Services team that looks after SuperMate. Okay, so we'll get started. So for this webinar, your presenter is going to be Reese, our Manager of Product Design. And today he's going to be taking us through a number of improvements and enhancements to SuperMate.
Thank you, Maureen. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. We've got a packed agenda covering several key areas of SuperMate, designed to streamline your work and improve the experience to your clients. There were 10 releases containing 261 items this month, which is extraordinary considering the massive compliance release at the end of last month. Today, we'll be walking you through client view enhancements, including new reporting and customization options, the DMS focusing on bulk actions and flexibility, bank account improvements, specifically for foreign cash and data feed protection, SuperStream updates relating to better error messaging and a few audit checks. We've now made 2027 windups available, and the general platform enhancements. We've made some general minor optimization. So let's jump straight into client view. First up, we've introduced snapshot reporting, and this is a fantastic efficiency gain for your client view users, so they can now generate a single PDF containing multiple reports of their choice. Just going to navigate to SuperMate so I can start showing it off. So inside the future Superfund, if I select client view, just for some reason that client view button's not ready to be selected. Yeah, there we go. So if I select client view, I can navigate to client view, which is a great feature for our that we've released, where you can now see what your clients see. If I navigate to the report screen and then the snapshot tab, you can see here, this is where snapshot reports can get generated. You can choose the date, or the clients can choose the date range, include cover letter, add certain reports, move the reports around to the order that they would like, update parameters, and we've even added an option where you can email the report when ready. So that option there will email the report to the user that's logged in to their email account. And this is a lot like with the report suite setup, where you can set up your own report suites, but this is for client view users just to generate it as they go. When you select generate, you do get they will get a toast notification to say it's being generated, and one when it has been finished. If I go to snapshot history, this is where once it's been generated, it can be downloaded. Another key feature for snapshot reporting is that it will remember the last set of reports that was generated by that user. So if you have an advisor, multiple funds, they want to generate the exact same report pack for multiple clients, they can jump in here, generate the snapshot report, switch funds, generate the exact same without having to make any modifications. The other thing we've done relating to reports in client view is that advisors and trustees, they can now generate their consolidated member statements from client view, which was quite a popular request. It's still controlled by what reports that you want them to generate. This one's been set up so it can be generated. It'll appear by default because it was a popular request. But if it's something that you don't want your trustees or advisors generating, you can switch that report off. I jump back into SuperMate, into the report section, consolidated member statement can be generated here. Next, let's look at resources. You can now add URL links to the resources section. Instead of just static PDFs, that now link directly to live fact sheet. You can now have a link that takes them to a live fact sheet, training videos, or updated forms on your own website, or also external websites. This ensures that your clients are always looking at current information without you needing to re-upload documents across every site. So if I jump back into SuperMate, I'll jump into SuperMate, the view you have. If I go to reports, branding, select edit on this SuperMate one, and go to the resources tab. You can see here I've got a few resources. There's some fact sheets, there's some forms that they can generate out of Client View. However, I have this resource here, which is a URL, and I'll put the URL there. So this resource here is the ATO Div 296 information from the ATO's website. If I select view, it will open up the website so I can see what I'm linking before, without having to navigate to Client View to review. However, for your trustees and advisors, when they're in Client View, go to the Resources tab. You can see here I've got a couple of links in the Resources section. This one here, SuperMate data feeds. Open the link. It takes you to the SuperMate website where we have all our different data feeds and our entire ecosystem that's available. For those who are supporting multiple advisors, we've added the advisor filtering. Advisor assistants can now use the fund dropdown to filter screens, like the query screen, by a specific advisor. And it makes it much easier for them to manage their relationships with multiple advisors and having focused focused conversations about outstanding items for specific advisors. So jumping back into Client View, if I go to the queries section, I'm not going to have these lists because I'm logged in I've navigated as a trustee. However, if I was an advisor assistant that had multiple advisors that I was working with on my site, if I go into this fund filter screen here, I would have the advisors' names. I'd be able to select, say that'd be Melinda. I'm having a conversation with Melinda. Okay, here's all the queries that are outstanding with your clients. And then when I catch up with the other advisor, I can select the other advisor's name, then view all the queries that are outstanding for that advisor. And as I mentioned, any other screen in Client View that has a fund filter, an advisor assistant will be able to flick between those advisors that she services to dial in on that advisor's queries or whatever information, whatever information is on that screen. The final item for Client View is that the user invitation link now doesn't expire for 45 days. We've heard feedback that 15 days wasn't enough, especially over the holiday period. So we expanded the period, and this should help reduce the need to resend expired invites. Moving on to the DMS, the headline feature here is bulk download for all financial years. Previously, when doing bulk downloads from SuperMate, you could only download year by year. Now you can trigger a single job to download every document across their fund's entire history. Jumping back to SuperMate, I will go, that's Client View. I'll jump back to SuperMate, go to the Documents section, and I do have this bulk download. So say if for some reason I need to download all the documents or the client is leaving my service, I can select all financial years now, and that will download all the documents for all the financial years. One thing to point out is that we only allow one job to run at a time per fund. And this is really as part of to keep things running smoothly for your site. It's a performance control. You can still navigate to a different fund and run the same job on a different fund. You just can't have the same job running on the same fund at the same time. Once that's done, you can just navigate to the job section. This one's running currently. Here's one where I have generated previously, and I can download the zip file, which has all the documents for that fund. We've also added a fund filter in the site inbox. You can now search using existing fund lists or filter by unassigned documents, or by ones that are assigned to a fund. And we've also added the fund name to the column. So going back to SuperMate, go to the site inbox, and I will open up the financial years. You can see here in the fund filter, it defaults to all funds are unassigned. I can look at ones that are unassigned. So if I want to prioritize documents that haven't been assigned to a fund, I can do that. Also, I got the fund filter. So if I have an agreement with a certain advisor that their documents get indexed by a certain time period, you could create a filter for that advisor and then search by that advisor to make sure that you're prioritizing that their documents are indexed and making sure that they were indexed each day. You still have the user option here, where if you know a certain user uploaded it, you can search. I'm just going to search here on all funds. You can see here we now have that name, so you can focus on easily identify the fund and dial in on it. You can see the uploaded user here. If I type in Doris as a user, select search, I can see all the documents that Doris is uploaded. I can search a certain date if I'm looking for an unindexed document that I know that Doris might have uploaded on a certain day. I can do that. It's the site inbox improvements. Lastly, we've enabled full functionality for deactivated entities. Now you can view, download, and edit documents for funds that have been closed, meaning you can extract documents for funds that have left your service. Jumping back to SuperMate, I'm going to open up a deactivated fund. Since it's deactivated, it doesn't show up in the quick search section. It is, if I search in the advanced section, I can see here is my deactivated fund. And you can see for deactivated funds, we have limited functionality. because since they're deactivated, can't do certain processing on them. But say if you've deactivated the fund and then months later the client calls up and says, "Hey, I don't think I have this document, or I don't have this piece of information," you can now go into the document section, um, view the document, select edit, reindex it. So say if you accidentally index a document to a fund that's now deactivated, you can jump in, you can reindex it to the correct fund, download it. So do the bulk download, deactivate the fund, and then come back later and deactivate it. Sorry, bulk download all the documents for that fund. Some helpful functionality relating to the DMS. Here's a breakdown of how that site inbox fund filter does work between the all funds and unassigned and all the different filters. Moving on to bank accounts, we've updated the foreign cash load. So when importing via a spreadsheet, we now have an optional 5th column for AUD. Previously in SuperMate, we only had the 4 columns, and we would use SuperMate's the exchange rates in SuperMate to automatically convert it to AUD. But now, if you get a spreadsheet from an external source that has an AUD figure, you can upload the AUD figure, to make sure that this matches the transactions in SuperMate do match the external source. So jumping back into SuperMate, I will go to the transactions bank account section and locate my US bank account. You can see here I have a bunch of transactions that are already here. AUD value, exchange rate. I'm just going to delete these transactions so I can reload them. When I select load transactions and it's a foreign bank account, when I select download, it does download the spreadsheet which I prepared earlier that has the AUD optional column. So if you're on a domestic bank account, the 5th column won't appear. This time it has, because I'm on a foreign bank account. And you can see here, I can copy and then paste it from the clipboard, and the AUD value is what's from the spreadsheet. The exchange rate updates to be the native currency and the AUD value. So the difference there. However, if I just do 4 columns, it uses SuperMate's exchange rate and provides the values that were on the screen before I deleted those transactions. We've also integrated the DMS into the load transaction screen, and you can now click a check for bank statements to see if there's any statements that are already in the DMS, and it also shows you how many transactions there are there for the period. Jumping back into SuperMate, I will go to the ANZ account, select load transactions, check for bank transactions, and you can see here I've got it's brought up the bank statements that be indexed against this account. If there were bank statements that didn't have the account, you'd also see them. It provides 2 transactions processed for that period. The date range comes from the indexing dates on the document. You can see it says 2 transactions, and that is the 2 transactions here, 31st of July. That just gives the indicator to go, okay, well, you already have 2 there. Maybe you're looking at all the statements and there's one that has 0 transactions processed, you might want to upload it. Or as you can see with this one, it says 2 transactions. And because I was looking at the DMS, I know that there was more than 2 transactions. However, once this loads, I shall be able to see on the PDF that there was 5 transactions. I've been told there's 2. Those 2 transactions here are the top 2. I can select delete and then save. And that way, I've got the transactions from the bank statement that Data Hero's read. It also stops duplicate bank statements appearing in the DMS. So every time you use that load transactions functionality and you upload a bank statement from external source, it does store that bank statement in the document section using the date range of the earliest transaction to the latest transaction, attaching it to the account, saying it's a bank statement. And what we found, or the feedback that we received, is that people going, oh, I've got this bank statement in my DMS. I have to download it, then upload it. So the Data Hero will grab the transactions. But now I've got multiple bank statements of the same bank, of the same statement in my document section. Heaps of duplicates. I have to go back through and delete them. So this enhancement stops it. The last item here for bank accounts is that we've implemented a data feed protection feature. If a bank account has an active data feed, the account number is now read-only. You can still update the BSB, but you'll receive a warning to say it might disrupt the feed. And this is basically just designed to stop accidental changes that breaking data feeds, or if you have a data fed bank account and it's linked to the SMSF annual return, you're not updating the bank account details to be different to what we know is correct. You can see here on the left, this is one where the data feed has commenced. I can't update the account number, so I get a warning straight away saying I can't update the account number. On the right is if I update the BSB. And so we allow you to update the BSB on active data feeds because branches do close, and sometimes you need to update the BSB. So the account number is still correct and the data feeds could work, but the BSB needs to be updated. So on the annual return, it goes to the bank account. Well, the deposit doesn't get rejected. The refund doesn't get rejected because the BSB is incorrect. Also, sometimes if that branch does close and the account goes to a different branch, the data feed can start using that new BSB, and you do need to update the BSB to match the new BSB so the data feed can continue working. Jumping into SuperMate, I don't have any on my site that have active data feeds because this is a demo site. However, on this ANZ one, if I select edit data feed, oh, sorry, not edit data feed, what am I doing? Select edit on the bank account, and I either update the BSB or update the account number. I do get this warning to say, hey, someone's sent an authority form. If change this bank account, that's going to, if you have get the signed form back and then you send it off, the data feed might not work because you've now changed the account details. But once again, we do allow the BSB and account number to be updated in case it was wrong. And you need to update it to issue a new data feed form, or the BSB and account number is correct. You've got the form signed, you've sent it off, but for some reason the data feed provider is sending a different BSB back. you can jump in and update the BSB, make the data feed active. Moving on to SuperStream. For SuperStream, we're now providing detailed error descriptions. If the ATO or the clearinghouse sends a detailed description that is different to a shorter one, we now display both on screen and in the view data report. And we've also, the second dot point, we've also made the member not found warning more actionable. It now explicitly tells someone to go, which explicitly tells the user to go check the member's name, date of birth, TFN, and address against the ATO records. So we did receive feedback that we were providing this warning message where it says member not found with supplied information, which was indicating that the SuperStream message coming in did not match the ATO's records or what's in SuperMate. And it's basically to say, all right, well, you need to go now check that in SuperMate that the date of birth's correct, the TFN, the member's name. So sometimes we do see the member not found supplied information can happen if the TFN was not on the incoming SuperStream message. We'll try and identify the member using their name, date of birth, and address. And if the date of birth, the member's name, the middle name was different. So in SuperMate, there was no middle name, but on the message that was coming in, if you can see there's a middle name, you can add the middle name and see if that resolves the issue. Another item that we've done is a SuperStream contribution report. It was brought to our attention that we had employer on the report. So we had employer. Sometimes if the contribution came from the ATO or a different, sometimes we saw that the clearinghouse's name was in the section on the line above. It didn't quite make sense to say it was the employer because the ATO was not the employer. We've updated that field to payer. And so if the member was receiving any ATO co-contributions or LISC contributions from the ATO, it'll now say that the payer is the ATO, not the ATO is the employer. And lastly, we added a new test. That's going to identify any outstanding MVR messages that need your attention. We've added this test to the fund health check, the end of year door, and the team leader review profile. And basically, we did this so if you are closing a financial year, it'll check to see if there is any MVR requests outstanding. Obviously, there is that requirement to respond to an MVR within 24 hours of receiving it. So I hope you aren't in that situation where you have an MVR for 26 that hasn't been responded to because you've breached that timeline. Jumping back into SuperMate, I do want to, before I jump into where the tests are and how to run them, I do want to point out that we do have this card that can be looked at any time of the day, and it will tell you if there's any MVR messages that need responding to. Also, under settings, I don't have an email address here because it's a demo site, but if the email address here, we said when we receive an MVR, we do send emails to that email address to say, hey, this fund's got a MVR that needs responding to. We also do a daily wrap up to say these are the number of messages that need responding to, and a breakdown of all the different types, which if you missed last month's webinar, I did cover it in last month's webinar. If I jump into the health check section, I can jump in here, search the profile, or I can search for the test, select run. I can run it at this point, jump into the results section, and I shouldn't have anything that is in warning or error. Sorry, select the profile. So if I go down to 219, search that specific test, I don't have any warnings. And if I go all, I can see that all of I'm just getting passes at the moment. So all the funds pass. But obviously don't use the fund health check from a day-to-day perspective. I would rely on the site overview SuperStream card. The next feature is wind-ups. So obviously, hopefully you don't have any wind-ups that are ready to be lodged already this financial year, because it's only July. But if you do, you can now lodge them in SuperMate. And this is something that we release after the end of financial year compliance release, because of the timing of, we do the end of year compliance release in the 20th, just before 30th of June, so you can start lodging funds by 1st of July. And the ATO doesn't allow you lodging wind-ups for the following financial year when the financial year hasn't started yet. So we've released this. You can now lodge 27 SMSF annual returns directly through SuperMate Web. And I should point out that it's only SuperMate Web that you can do this in. Jumping back into SuperMate, I'll go to my wound up fund, which I've wound up as of 15th of July 26. And if you've missed previous webinars, updating the fund status to wound up or winding up, you can enter the wind up date. That controls when the period close is going to use as a wind up date. And jumping into that year, I can jump into audit and signing, make sure that the audit details have been updated here, which will flow through to the annual return. You can regenerate it for signing. And then in the lodgement screen, I can now lodge for 2027 financial year. Now, when it comes to general platform enhancements, first one I want to cover off is the new transaction rule choice. So when processing similar transactions, previously we forced the transaction rule to be created if you don't untick any of the options. Now we provide you the option. So we got feedback saying, hey, like, I don't always want to have transaction rules created. And now the option is yours. If I jump back into this super fund, go into the reconciliation screen, and yep, I have my interest transactions. Type in interest. SuperMate knows which bank account it relates to, and I have all these. It's identified all these similar transactions, and if I tick or untick it, you can see the create transaction rule button appears or disappears. So if I untick it, it's not going to create a transaction rule. If they are all ticked, you can see create transaction rule is ticked, and I select save. It's going to go. It will process these as a transaction, but it will also set up the transaction rule. Going into the transaction rule tab, and I go search, go edit. You can see here, it's going okay. If for this bank account, if I get a description that equals interest, processor to this account. A lot of automation there. The next item is commercial properties being sold as going concern. We've updated the logic for properties sold as going concern. So if the disposal GST is higher than the contract GST, the system now creates two separate transactions to ensure that the BAS and the cost bases are 100% accurate when the transaction gets sold. So prior, if it was sold as a going concern and there was no GST on the property, but there was GST on the capital expenses of selling the property, the BAS statement wasn't showing the transactions correctly, so we've updated it so it will. Jumping into SuperMate and changing funds. I'll just jump straight into the property settlement section. For Spine Street, if I select View, for people who aren't aware, this is the property settlement worksheet that helps you to reconcile property settlements just in one screen and then generate all the transactions. If I go to the settlement transaction side, it was sold as a going concern, therefore no GST, but there's GST on the agent commission, lawyer fees, marketing fees. So the total GST is negative 2,500. The property disposal will be a capital amount of $1,665, but there's negative 2,500 GST. I also have GST on all the expenses, etc. So if I select the view work paper to see which can be provided to team leaders or auditors, I shall select view work paper just to show you the transactions that are created. So normally when a worksheet hasn't been closed, there's a process transactions button. When you select that process transactions button, it will go through and create all these transactions. And you can see here's all the different GST now coming through correctly. Here's the GST on the settlement. For the capital expenses, there's no GST on the property. We also create a purchase, so a purchase to buy that capital, which then later on gets sold. And if I jump into the realized capital gains report, which I generated earlier, the acquisition date of that additional capital uses the date, the first, the CGT date of the first tax parcel. So the CGT date of cost base element 1. And that way, if the property was sold outside the 12-month period, the discounting does get applied to the relevant tax parcels. So obviously, if this date was within 12 months, there would not be any discounting. So the property is going as a going concern. We've also added in a check to make sure that the corporate the corporate trustee, it has an ACN. So similar to where I was showing you the fund health check, where I was running it for the member verification messages, you can also run that for the ACN for the corporate trustee. Make sure it's there. You can add it to any other profile. So if you have an onboarding profile, you can add that test to the onboarding profile or end of year. And the final item is we've added financial year badges. Hopefully you've noticed that we've now got these new open, closed, and completed badges in the menu just to make sure it's easier to identify where that fund is up to in financial year. So you can see which ones have been closed, which ones are still open quite easily. Obviously, if you are when opening the fund, we do have the first open financial year badge here. So that'll tell you which financial year is the first open financial year. However, that badge doesn't indicate whether that just indicates whether that financial year's that period's been closed, not whether it's been lodged or not. So if I go to the end of year, you can see these from 2020 to 2023, it says closed. This one says completed. So if I go end of year, tracking 2024, its status is completed, so it has been lodged. I mustn't have put the lodgement date in when I updated the status to be completed. So yeah, just a reminder, you can, in the lodgement screen, you can, when it changes to completed, you do get the option to put the lodgement date in. Also in the financial year information screen, I can jump in and I can add the date that it was lodged. So yeah, just to recap, the badges here, obviously the financial years below this line, they're ones where the periods have been closed. If it says closed, it's not marked off as being lodged in the system. So 2020 to 2023, I've merely closed them in the system. I haven't marked the status as completed. This one I have completed / lodged. And then 25 to 27, those financial years are still open for this fund. That covers the major updates for this session. These changes were all about giving you more control, better visibility, and faster processing times. And I thank you all for your time, and I look forward to seeing you at the next webinar, and I'll pass it off to Maureen.
Thank you, Reese, for taking us through those updates. It's good to see some of the changes that are happening. So talking about support, which I'd be remiss if I didn't, is if you do want to explore a bit more. So obviously you've seen some of the capabilities and new features for SuperMate today. But if you want to explore more, we do have a new help portal, which is available within SuperMate. So just from your little icon, just go to the help portal there. And that will take you to our brand new help portal, which does have a lot of features. You can dive into the features. You can see what's new in terms of any new features that we've done as well. And also just find any answers to see how you can use the new features and how they compare if you've been using our classic version. If you are not yet using SuperMate Web, just a reminder about the time-saving features that are included for the competitive price. And yeah, if you're interested, obviously with the email that comes out after the webinar, you can contact us on to find out some more. One of the other things as well that we do offer is there is on-demand SMSF training that you can undertake. Simply go to our Super Concepts website. The details of all the different modules that are available there will be that including, so you can go and have a look at it. Definitely worth a look if you are looking to do some CPD points, and it's quite flexible in the modules that you can do as well. So do we have any questions from anybody today in regards to anything that Reese has covered off for us? So yep, just use the little question mark icon if you want to ask us a question, and just type that away. Yeah, Reese, do you have any questions that you've got there to cover off?
Not today, Maureen. But yeah, looking forward to the next webinar. And
yep. You're getting a hint.
Yeah, get the questions ready for the next webinar if you have any.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you for your time, everybody, today. As I said, we will be sending an email which will include a link to the recording of the webinar. So if you do want to go over any of the details at all, you'll be able to do that. But thank you again for your time. Thanks, Reese, for a great walkthrough of what we've been doing in SuperMate. And we hope everyone has a good day. And yeah, we'll talk to you all at some stage later.
Thanks, Maureen.
Thank you.